All right, everyone, welcome back. I hope everyone enjoyed their quick little break. It's always nice to get up, move around, especially when you're doing these trainings like these. So now I just want to take a moment to jump into some potential conflicts that you may come across and just some really key points that you can use when you're dealing with a lot of interpersonal communication. Of course, whether it's with the students that you're mentoring, that you're responsible for, it could even be with fellow resident assistants. And, some of this information you can even utilize in your personal relationships outside of your RA role at GCU. So, in the beginning, we had you guys fill out the potential scenario and how you would react to it. So, once we're done with this portion of some knowledge and skills that you can utilize when approaching conflict with your students or fellow RAs, we're going to go back to that. So I'll ask one or two of you to share how you responded to that scenario before the training, and then we'll sort of jump back into it and see how you would approach it differently. I'll even let you guys have a little bit of a question and answer format as well. So we'll just go ahead and get started then. So the first thing I want to talk to you guys about when it comes to potential conflict, we definitely want to make sure that the students are feeling understood, that they're feeling heard. And one type of skill that we can utilize to do this is asking questions. So making sure that we're phrasing things, we're sort of repeating things back to them to really clarify and make sure that we're understanding clearly what it is that they're upset about, what the conflict is. It's just a really easy way for you to get across that you're listening, but also to make sure that you're listening in the way that they're intending their message to get across. A lot of the time with communication, even if it's 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, we definitely have issues where we say things and they come out in ways that we don't mean them to, or it could be somebody else's perception based on their past experiences. So maybe we think we're saying something the right way, but based on people's past and their relationship with conflict, with communication, whatever it may be, these students have a lot of different backgrounds, so they could have different experiences that we know nothing about. So making sure that we're clarifying, we're repeating things back to them, just to ensure that we're really understanding what they're saying. So this is going to allow them to feel heard, to feel understood, and also allow for them an opportunity to tell you if their message didn't get across correctly. So that's a good way to sort of allow the communication to continue rather than people to sort of shut down and get quiet during conflict, which can sometimes happen. And another, moving on to another skill that we can use when it comes to conflict, especially dealing with, with students. And like I said at the beginning of this portion, any relationship where you have communication, interpersonal communication, all of that stuff. Another tip that I love to sort of tell all of you RAs as you're moving into this, and this is a simple one too, but it really makes a huge difference. So utilizing when you're interacting with the students, we definitely want to take a backseat approach and make sure that like I said, they're feeling heard, they're feeling respected. When someone's involved in a conflict, they're already feeling emotional, they're feeling, attacked perhaps, all of these negative emotions. And something I always try to tell the RAs to avoid is avoid using like you messages. So if I were to say, okay, so you reacted in a negative way, or you reacted this way, avoid using you and instead replace you with I. So this is going to allow them to, if we use phrases like you did this, it sort of isolates them. It's sort of, subtly, whether we intend to or not, going back to perception and what we actually mean, It's sort of allowing them to, they're already in a vulnerable state. If we're using you messages, it isolates them. It makes them feel as though we're accusing them, even though we're not. That's not the intention. I'm sure we can all understand and, think back to a moment where you were in a conflict or you were feeling, just more emotional than normal and hurt and all these negative emotions. It's very easy when you're in that state to feel attacked, to feel like, somebody's ganging up on me. Okay, this is the conflict. You're my RA. Why are you talking to me that way? Why are you, you're making me feel like I'm responsible, like I'm at fault, etc., etc. So that's just another easy way that we can, just remember, replace you with I. And it also allows them to, even going back to the first part, like making sure that they know that you understand, let it like I that instead of you. That way they don't feel like you're attacking them, like you're isolating them, and all of that stuff. So, and then the last part I want to touch base on sort of goes a little bit hand in hand with the first part, which was, asking clarifying questions and, trying to get more out of them if you're not getting an accurate understanding. But the last thing, something that we can utilize, and this comes down to active listening, to our communication, is really, and this is a way to, like I said in the beginning, make sure that we're really understanding how they're feeling, what they're saying, what happened, the conflict made them feel. So making sure that we're repeating back to them, whether it be verbatim or whether it be like a summary, however we heard the message, repeating it back to them and allowing them the opportunity to say, yes, that is how I feel. That so we understand that we received the message correctly. Or, also allowing them the opportunity to say, no, that's not what I meant. What I meant to say was. So it's giving them an opportunity to really reiterate if that's what they intended to get across, or not. So, and then now that we've sort of gone over, those helpful tips when it comes to, approaching conflict, and, those are just some easy ways that you can avoid sort of making people feel like you're taking a side and allow you to be neutral and to really feel like you're actually listening to them. Because it goes a long way, especially, the students are under a lot of stress, deadlines, tests, everything. You guys understand as well. You're there, you've been there. So really just allowing them that moment to be heard, to be, you never know where this instance, this conflict, this approach might take them. It might take them to a positive relationship with the person they had conflict with. It could increase the relationship in a positive way that they have with you, and you're mentoring them and all of that stuff. So it's really just important to remember, those little tips and how you can approach conflict. And then something else I want you guys to remember too, this goes along with the knowledge part, rather than the skills that we just went over, is, a good majority of the time, what I want you guys to remember when it comes to conflict, if you approach a student and they approach you in a, an aggressive or disruptive or emotional or hurtful way, if you ever are having to deal with that, it can be the easy route is to then respond with more negative emotions. You sort of shut down, you get offended, you're sort of getting to the point where you're fighting fire with fire, which never ends well, right? So something I want you guys to remember is a huge majority of the time, I promise you guys, a huge majority of the time, when people react negatively, when people are having this conflict that to you may seem unnecessary, or, they're combating you for no reason, apparently, conflict and these negative emotions, it never really has to do with you. So what I mean by that is, we're all going through stuff that nobody has any idea about, right? We've all been there. We go on about our day. We try to get through, our daily activities the best we can. But the reality is that each of these students has their different set of experiences, negative and positive. But, we're focusing on the negative right now. They have all these experiences, all these things that they're dealing with internally, mentally, emotionally. Maybe they're a first-time student, maybe they're a sophomore, maybe they're getting ready to graduate and lack of motivation. All of these negative feelings, all of these things that we can't see from the outside, those things are affecting how they're acting. So it's really important to remember that, because that can make a world of difference in how you respond. Because normally, like I said, we want to go to the negative. We want to, whether it be nonverbal cues, we're sitting like this because we don't like how they spoke to us, or we don't like how they treated us. So it's really important to remember that, so that in our approach, in our response to them, that we can be respectful, we can be, professional, all of the stuff that, an RA should embody. We never want the students to feel attacked. We're there for them to make this experience as, as fun, as growing as possible. We want them to have a lot of growth, whether it be mental, of course, educational, emotional. And RA really is everything sort of all in one. So these tips are something that you can sort of utilize as you approach these tough conversations, these conflicts, all of that, and helping you manage it and all of that stuff. So quickly, I know we're running a little short on time. I wanted to go over, so the scenario that we had was that I had you guys write about, was that a student came to you, complaining about a disagreement that they had with their roommate about any type of behavior. I'm sure you guys have heard it all. And they come to you, they're telling you this side of the story, they're super emotional, they're angry, they're hurt. They're under a lot of stress because they have a test in the morning. I'm sure we've all heard that one as well. And I know some of you, someone wrote down for their response, which I loved, and I wanted to make sure I focused on this one, that they would consider both sides of the conflict. That was their response to the scenario that I gave you guys. They would consider both sides of the conflict individually before talking to them together. So I can't emphasize enough, that was a great response. And hopefully everything that we went over today just sort of helps you tackle that, type of situation even better, even stronger in the future. But it's a great response, because you want to make sure that each of these people that are in the conflict, each of these students, that they're heard by you individually. We don't want to take two people who are, in the heat of the moment, very emotional, stressed. We don't want to take them without hearing their sides individually, put them together. It's just going to be everybody talking over one another. So the fact that you said that, so to talk to them separately and sort of get their sides, because you never want to just assume the first person who came to you, you don't want to assume that that's how it went. Everyone perceives things and reacts to things differently. So you want to make sure that each of these students is feeling heard, like their concerns are feeling valid, and just making sure that, they approach it. You facilitate that, but that they approach the conflict in a healthy way and in a way that's going to make their relationship stronger, and all of that as well. So I just wanted we have a little bit of time left, so I wanted to take a couple of questions if anybody had any. So let's see here. Somebody said, how would you approach someone who came to you very upset, very emotional, to the point where you couldn't understand them due to crying and all of that stuff? So, my answer to that would be with big patience, compassion, patience, let them get everything out that they need to get out, and allow them time to sort of process through those emotions. And then, like I mentioned earlier, like making sure that you're really listening. So paraphrasing, summarizing, say it back to them, make sure, so this is what I'm understanding based on what you're saying. Is that correct? Because we definitely want to make sure we're really understanding the problem, getting to the root of it, to make sure that we're understanding and we can move forward with them, feeling confident about the way the conflict was approached. So I don't think we have any other questions. I am going to give you guys a survey. So if you could fill that out, be honest, it's anonymous. I would really appreciate it for all the future trainings. But hopefully you guys learned something today. And thank you guys so much for your time.